All right, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us this afternoon for the makeup session. We were supposed to have this session or this activity together, but since we ran out of time, we were not able. Oh, unfortunately, the internet went off and came back again. So I'll start again. Is introduction. Uh, like I said earlier, welcome to all of you, and thank you for joining us this afternoon. We were supposed to have this activity together with the discussion in the last session, but because of time, we could not allow you to present your the summary of your discussion that you had with your group members. So this is a makeup session or special session for us to give you this time to share with us a summary of your discussion that you had in regards to the 4 levels of analysis and the foreign policy white paper 2025. So we'll begin with group 1. Group 1 will be represented by Theophilus. After group 1, we'll have group 2 represented by Fiona. And after group 2, we have group 3 represented by Abigail. And group 4 represented by Elizabeth. Group 5 represented by Della, and group 6 by Teresa and Tia. So without further delay, I'll open the floor for presentations. But before we go into the presentations, just a reminder, this session is for the presentation. So whatever questions you have and comments should be directed to the 6 groups and their representatives. And I'll not be answering any questions from you, but it will be questions, comments directed to the presenters. So my role is just to facilitate the session and give you time, then come in and just facilitate the Q&A session and move from one presenter to another and then open the floor for questions and all that. So the questions that you have and the comments that you want to make should be derived from the presentations this afternoon, as well as I've shared via email all the groups, the tables belonging to all the groups, I believe. So you all have a copy of the tables created by the groups, the 7 different groups. So you can have a look while they're presenting, check your emails, go through the documents, and then if you have any questions, comments for clarification, you can ask them afterwards. So we'll give them we'll allow all of them to present, and then after the presentation, we'll open the floor for Q&A, questions and comments. So take note, and while they're presenting, also have a look at the documents that we've circulated via email, the tables. So, sorry. So with that, I'll stop here and I'll hand over the virtual microphone to Theophilus to kickstart the presentation. Theophilus representing group number 1. Theophilus, go ahead, please.
Once again, good afternoon, Mr. Higuera and classmates. So I will be representing group number 1 to present. So I will go by each question under each level of analysis. So I will go with the first question under strategic level. So what does the question under strategic level is? The question is, what strategic national interest does white paper seek to protect or advance? So upon our discussion, we have 4 answers to this question under strategic level of analysis. The first one is to protect our sovereignty. Second is to strengthen the security. Third, grow our economy. The last one is to improve our citizens' well-being. But adding on to that, it also applies to that. Our answers also in line with the pillars that we have, the 8 pillars, which is the bilateral relationship, effective multilateralism, robust institutions that protect our sovereignty and security, economic and commercial diplomacy, development cooperation, national branding and soft power, departmental and diplomatic reform, and the last one is leadership coordination. So that is under the strategic level of analysis. So I now move on to the next level of analysis, which is contextual level. So the question under contextual level of analysis is what domestic, regional, and global factors shape the white paper. So under domestic challenges, we have unstable governance, law and order issues, lack of health and education services in remote areas, as well as deteriorating infrastructures, including roads and others. So that is under the contextual level of analysis. Sorry, also adding on to the example that I gave, unemployment also included. Now to the regional challenges. So under regional challenges, we have Melanesian cultures and values. We have different Melanesian cultures and values. And then we have environmental impacts that include climate change and rising sea level. Okay, transnational crime that is including human trafficking, drug smuggling, and illegal firearms movement, and then expansion of border security. Under global challenges, we have cyber threats, economic uncertainty, even the US-China rivalry, and now we have, this latest one about, PNG and Taiwan. PNG declining this Taiwan diplomacy. So this is an example under global challenge. I now move on to the organizational level of analysis. Under the organizational level of analysis, we have the question, which institutions and actors were involved or are responsible? So the institution responsible or involved are the Department of Foreign Affairs, Eminent Persons Group or EPG, Prime Ministers, we have secretaries and the foreign ministers. That is under organizational level. Okay, under operational level, the question is what implementation steps, challenges, or gaps can be identified? So the challenges or gaps identified, we have institutional capacity, we have lack of funding, lack of skilled personnel, and lack of leadership, coordination, and consultation from, say, central agencies. And to the primary level, which level best explain the white paper in overall and why? So the level that we choose as a group is strategic level. So why strategic level? Because the white paper primarily sets PNG's long-term national interest and foreign policy direction, anticipating what to achieve in the future with the plans, vision, and so forth specified in the policy. So when I mention plans that include the medium-term development plan and vision is the Vision 2050, they are the contributing mechanism to the foreign policy white paper. And to the overall review, what does the white paper reveal about PNG foreign policy making process? So PNG's foreign policy making process is strategic and it is coordinated through a whole of government approach, linking foreign policy with national development plans such as the PNG SDP or PNG Sustainable Development Plan 2010 to 2030, Medium-Term Development Plan number 4, and the Vision 2050. Thank you.
Thank you, dear fellows and group one. So if you have any questions, comments, please note it down, and then after the last presenter, I'll open the floor for questions and comments from the class. The next presenter is Fiona. Fiona is representing group number 2. Fiona, please go ahead.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone.
Afternoon.
So what I will present is a summary of my group's answers to the 8 questions based on the discussions we had during our Zoom Whiteboard class before last week. So we discussed that the Papua New Guinea's Foreign Policy White Paper 2025 identifies 8 key foreign policy priorities, which are the 8 pillars, which I believe all of our case studies is based on those. So the white paper seeks to, sorry, I'm not going to name them because I think we already know by now. So the white paper seeks to advance PNG's strategic national interests by promoting economic prosperity and national security. The policy was shaped by domestic pressures, such as economic challenges, development needs, law and order issues, institutional weaknesses, and climate change, as well as regional and international pressures, including Indo-Pacific strategic competition between the major powers, particularly now we are seeing between USA and China, border management, geopolitical shifts, emerging security threats, and global economic uncertainty. So these are regional and international pressures. So key actors involved in the policy process include the Prime Minister, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, NEC, the Department of Foreign Affairs, other governmental departments, overseas missions, security agencies, academia, and regional and international organizations. So this reflects all of government approach. It's a collective approach and not one-man responsibility. However, despite its strong vision, implementation may face challenges such as limited financial and human resources, weak interagency coordination, limited monitoring and evaluation, change of governments, and balancing relationship with competing major powers. So these are the implementation challenges that it can face. So based on Gyngell and Wesley's 4 levels of analysis, we think that the white paper is best explained at the strategic level because it provides a long-term vision, identifies our national interests, establishes guiding principles, and sets broad foreign policy objectives rather than detailed day-to-day implementation procedures. So the white paper's main strength identified include the white paper provides a clear long-term direction. It promotes economic diplomacy and national security. It strengthens PNG's international role. It encourages government-wide coordination and responding to emerging global challenges that we are facing today, like climate change or transnational crimes, and so forth. However, its weaknesses include ambitious goals that may exceed current institutional capacity. For example, while the policy aims to expand diplomatic engagement and strengthen overseas missions, limited funding or shortage of skilled diplomats and resource constraints may affect its implementation. That is an example of lack of institutional capacity. So other weaknesses include limited implementation detail, dependence on effective coordination, and the possibility that changing geopolitical conditions may require future adjustments. For example, increasing competition between major powers such as China and the US in the Indo-Pacific region may require PNG to carefully balance its relationships. So therefore, PNG may adjust our diplomatic priorities. That's an example. So overall, the white paper reveals that PNG makes foreign policy through a multi-level process, So at the strategic level, the government sets the long-term national interests and priorities. At the contextual level, policymakers consider domestic, regional, and international factors. At the organizational level, implementation depends on coordination between the Department of Foreign Affairs, Cabinet, overseas missions, and other key government agencies. That is organizational level. And at the operational level, diplomats and public servants, they carry out foreign policy through negotiations, diplomacy, reporting, consular services, and day-to-day engagement. So overall, this demonstrates that foreign policy is not made by one institution alone, but through cooperation across different levels of government. So yes, that's what we discussed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Fiona. If you have any questions or comments from Fiona, please take a look and then you can ask after the final presenter. The next presenter is Abigail, representing group number 3. Abigail, please, the virtual microphone is yours. Go ahead.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. So for group 3, firstly we look at the strategic level of analysis. So the guiding question is, what national interests and long-term goals does the white paper promote? So our response mainly is to promote security and economic prosperity, as highlighted by the main goal of white paper 2025, to do with global adaptation for strategic level. So at a contextual level, under the guiding question, what domestic, regional, and global factors shape the white paper? So for domestic, we have labeled law and order, corruption, natural disasters, weak governance at the domestic level. On a regional level, we have weak border security. We look at maritime and cyber, and then climate change as well. Also geopolitical interest with tensions among China and USA, and also with Australia as well. So at the international level, we have strategic competition within the Asia and the Pacific. Again, we look at China as one of our main interests. And then we have diversification of economy. So on the organization level, which under the guiding question, which institutions and actors were involved or responsible? So number 1, we have the Department of Foreign Affairs, the National Executive Council. We also have diplomats. We have the Department of Planning and Monitoring, and also Department of Defense, Fisheries, Immigration and Development, and lastly, the Secretary of Foreign Affairs. So at the operational level, what implementation steps, challenges, or gaps can be identified? So looking at the white paper, one of the main challenges was funding, understaffing, as mentioned, and also poor agency coordination. This includes from the grassroots level up. We look at provincial governments and also on the national level as well. And then lastly, lack of human resources. This looks at the practitioners for capacity, especially in workshops, and capacity for building for diplomats. And at the primary level, to which level best explains the white paper overall? So why? So we've selected the strategic level. Given that the white paper is an extension of our domestic policies, It's on the basis of our 5 directive principles and goals. So it's a long-term statement of Papua New Guinea's national interest and international vision as well to negotiate and collaborate with other states. And also looking at the strategic levels, it also guides the contextual level, organizational, and operational levels to support this framework. So the strengths, there's a clear national vision. Like we said, the white paper is based on the domestic policy, which covers Papua New Guinea's constitution. So there's clear national vision, strong emphasis on sovereignty, using the active and selective engagement, which also commitment to climate change and collective effort of stakeholders. Looking at our weakness, implementation and challenges, this was mentioned in our operational level. It also lacks national consultation. This is more of an awareness to, I think, Papua New Guinea. It's really important that they understand what a foreign white paper policy is. So overall review, what does the white paper reveal about? Oh, no, sorry. Okay. So again, it's focusing on a strategic level. So like I've mentioned, it covers 4 main audience as Gyngell and Wesley mentioned. It covers the government, the public, the diplomatic community, and the foreign policy apparatus. So this main audience, they provide guidance to help build and build public understanding and support for foreign policy. So looking at the strategic foreign policy, it's not guided for international relations, but also as a community tool that aligns Papua New Guinea government priorities to inform the public and also collaborate, with intentions to other countries in direct proper work of diplomats and foreign policy officials. So back to our overall review. The white paper policy reveal about Papua New Guinea's foreign policy making process. We look at the national interest, domestic development priorities, regional and international partnerships, our friends to all and enemies to none. Also, the lack of domestic advocacy. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Abigail, for presenting group number 3. We'll move on to Elizabeth, representing group number 4.
Thank you, Mr. Yagura, and once again, good afternoon to everyone.
Hello.
So, for group 3, we'll be answering the questions based on a table of analysis. So, for the first level, the strategic level, under the guiding question, what national interest and long-term goals does the white paper promote? For our group response, we have 7 interests that the white paper promote. The first one is economic prosperity. Second is friends to all and enemies to none. The third one is national security. Fourth, promoting sovereignty. Fifth, economic and commercial diplomacy. Sixth, regional and global leadership. And the 7th is supporting national development. Under the second level, the contextual level, under the guiding question, what domestic, regional, and global factors shaped the white paper? For under the domestic factors, we have lack of proper governance and institutional ability, economic development needs, law and order issues, lack of capacity, and inequalities, especially in the rural-urban divide. Under regional factors, we have transnational crime, illegal fishing, smuggling and movement of people, climate change, and the US-China rivalry in the Pacific. Under the global factors, we have the multipolar world, external shock, cyber threats, China's rise, America first approach, Russia's invasion of Ukraine in the Middle East, artificial intelligence, and health security. Moving on to the third level of analysis, the organizational level. So under the guiding question, which institutions and actors were involved or are responsible? For the foreign policy white paper, we have firstly the Department of Foreign Affairs, which leads the implementation of the policy, Prime Minister, which provides an overall foreign policy direction, Minister for Foreign Affairs, which oversees diplomacy, Cabinet, which approves major policy decisions, the Parliament, which provides the oversight, and also the Eminent Persons Group, which was in 2022. They conducted a nationwide consultation in 23 and produced a report in 2024 that informed the white paper. Moving on to the operational level. So what implementation steps, challenges, or gaps can be identified? So in the foreign policy white paper, the implementation is guided by the 8 pillars of the foreign policy. It strengthens diplomatic missions overseas, improve coordination between government agencies, expand economic and commercial diplomacy. It builds stronger institutions within the Department of Foreign Affairs. For the challenges, it includes limited funding, shortage of skilled diplomats, institutional capacity, and responding to changing global conditions. Moving on to the primary level. So another guiding question, which level best explains the white paper overall and why? For our group, we've decided that the strategic level best explains the white paper because it clearly shows how Papua New Guinea carefully puts effort into positioning itself in a changing global environment by prioritizing national sovereignty, economic development, and international partnerships. So the white paper reflects an attempt to align foreign policy with national interest and long-term development goals. Therefore, the strategic level is more suited to understanding the white paper. For overall view, what does the white paper reveal about PNG's foreign policy making process? So it reveals that the process is more strategic and focused on national interest and diplomatic priorities compared to the former foreign policy. So it runs off interdepartmental stuff. So for overall conclusion, the PNG Foreign Policy White Paper 2025 is best understood as a strategic foreign policy document. It establishes a long-term vision centered on security, sovereignty, economic prosperity, and strategic partnerships while responding to changing regional and global conditions. At the same time, it highlights that effective foreign policy depends on capable institutions, coordinated implementation, and sufficient resources. So through Gyngell and Wesley's framework, the white paper demonstrates that Papua New Guinea's foreign policy decision-making is strategic in direction, context-driven in design, institutionally coordinated, and operationally it focuses on translating policy into practice. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Elizabeth, for presenting a group 4. We move on to the 5th group, represented by Della. Della, please go ahead.
All right. Good afternoon, Mr. Yagura and everyone. So for group 5, I will briefly just go through and answer the 8 questions. All right. So firstly, many foreign policy priorities were identified in the white paper. The main ones include bilateral relationships, effective multilateralism, sovereignty and security, commercial diplomacy, and development cooperation. Now, the white paper's main interests are reflected under the 8 pillars of the foreign policy. These national interests include protecting sovereignty and territorial integrity, strengthening defense, economic prosperity, expanding trade and investment, social well-being, national unity and identity, and so on. Moving on, the pressures that influence the direction of the white paper. Domestic pressures such as economic development, security, and infrastructure, together with regional dynamics, including Pacific cooperation and strategic competition, along with global trends such as multipolarity, rivalry, and transnational challenges. Now, all these factors together has influenced PNG to adopt a foreign policy that highlights economic prosperity, sovereignty, regional leadership, and a balanced engagement. Now, the key actors in the policy process were the Prime Minister, the Minister for Foreign Affairs, and the Department of Foreign Affairs. The department's secretary, Mr. Wohengu, has played a key coordinating role, and the Eminent Persons Group conducted nationwide consultations and produced a foundational report in which the white paper was based on. Now, although this white paper is one of the most decorated documents in PNG's public sector, there are challenges that are faced when implementing the policy, such as lack of cooperation between responsible agencies and institutions, resulting in poor resource management, and PNG's weak political structure and instability, which hinders the practitioners' decisions and judgment. Moving on, Gyngell and Wesley's strategic level best explains the white paper because it focuses on PNG's long-term foreign policy vision and national priorities. According to Gyngell and Wesley 2007, the strategic level tests the goals and interests that guide a country's foreign policy. This is reflected in the white paper, which highlights the importance of protecting PNG's national interests, improving security, supporting economic development, and strengthening international partnerships, as noted by the Department of Foreign Affairs 2025. The white paper's main purpose is to provide a long-term strategy for PNG's engagement with the world while considering global trends, coordination, and implementation, thus making the strategic level the most suitable for this framework. Now, there are a few strengths and weaknesses that the white paper possesses. Firstly, the strengths. It aligns the foreign policy with the national development goals. The 8 pillars provide a coordinated approach to foreign policy. It promotes PNG's role as a bridge between Asia and the Pacific, and it maintains the friends to all, enemies to none principle. The weaknesses, the implementation may be limited by funding and institutional capacity. Its dependence on major powers may create geopolitical challenges. The domestic issues like corruption and law and order may affect outcomes, and PNG's global influence remains limited. Finally, the white paper shows that our foreign policy is shaped mainly by local development needs, guided by the principle of friends to all, enemies to none. It uses PNG's geography as a bridge between Asia and the Pacific to influence partnerships, while the Department of Foreign Affairs drives reforms like training diplomats and improving technology. Mainly focusing on economic diplomacy, trade, investment, and branding alongside balancing ties with major powers such as Australia, China, and the US, and pursuing global engagement through the United Nations and ASEAN. At the same time, PNG wants to build its identity and reputation as a responsible global citizen and leader in the Pacific. Thank you, and that's all from Group 5.
Thank you, Della, and thank you, Group 5, for sharing with us your discussion. Once again, if you have any comments or questions, take note, or you can share with us after the final present We now move on to group 6, will be represented by Teres Siatia. And after group 6, we have group 7 represented by Gavin. So group 6, go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. Mr. Aguirre.
Gavin, I think there's an issue with the network. It's breaking up so we can hear you clearly. Maybe the network or your microphone.
Just for Can anyone hear me? Ice cream.
It's better now.
Can you
Okay, no, still going off and on.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My apologies once again for the list 6. I will be presenting our database entry and analysis on the Foreign Policy White Paper 2025. We will focus on how Papua New Guinea's urgent domestic needs in delivery, health, and aid cooperation are shaping how our leaders interact with foreign powers.
Sorry,
Now, let's start with our domestic reality.
This is the presentation for Friday, this Friday. The discussion for this afternoon is on the levels of analysis. For this afternoon,
My apologies.
the first 5 groups are presented on the discussion of the levels of analysis, the 4 levels, and the foreign policy white paper. And this presentation should be the Friday one. We will be doing this on Friday.
Once again, I apologize. I was told to present this as, I will be representing the group to present this, and I thought today's session was to present on what we found.
Yeah, that'll be on Friday. It's okay. You can present on Friday if the group.
All right.
Yeah. You have I think you submitted your levels of analysis. Yeah, the activity.
Yeah, our group leader submitted it.
Yeah, already. Yeah. Okay, so you prepared for the Friday one, the one on domestic policy challenges. Okay, all right. Sorry. Okay, Fidori said Ken has the document to ask Ken to present. Yeah, okay, Ken. So we will leave your presentation for this Friday. Or we move your presentation to this
No
Friday.
worries. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. We'll talk to Ken. All right.
Yeah. Okay, then we'll go to Gavin and then we'll come back to group 6. You can check Ken, and then if Ken can confirm that he'll present, then we'll come back to Ken. Gavin, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can everyone hear me? Mic test.
Loud and clear. Go ahead.
Thank you. So for group 7, for the levels of analysis, for question 1, I'll just go through the questions and answers. What are the national interests and the long-term goals does the white paper promote? So it promotes the national interest under the economic prosperity, strengthening national security. Also, it's guided by the medium-term development goal number 4, and also by the nation's PNG's constitution. At the contextual level, what does the domestic and regional global factors shape the white paper? At the domestic level, we look at it to promote economic growth locally and domestically, also promoting national sovereignty, improving service delivery, and addressing climate change and natural disasters. At the regional level, we look at the cooperation through the Pacific Island Forum, maritime and the border management, and the protection of the economic exclusive zones of our state. Organizational level, which institution and actors are involved or responsible? The institutional actors are the Department of Foreign Affairs, the members of the eminent group who were carrying out the research to formulate this white paper 2025. Also the Foreign Minister Cabinets, the Prime Minister Cabinets, and the senior public servants and diplomats. Operational level, we look at the challenges. What challenges we face? The limited financial human resources. This made it difficult for missions to implement reforms on also weak agency coordination, the capacity constraint within the Department of Foreign Affairs, including the shortage of trained diplomats and policy specialists, political instability, which have delayed and altered the policy priorities, and also the external geopolitical competition between the major powers, Australia, China, United States. For which level best explains the white paper overall. For Group 7, we chose contextual level because all foreign policies exist in accordance with satisfying a national interest that is linked with the constitution and its people needs. So other regional states share common interests like the Pacific Island forums, that are guided by the international law. So overall review, the white paper reveals how PNG is vigilant in adapting with the ever-changing world of international arena. It's a roadmap that guides PNG adaptation to the growing economic and security challenges to minimize risk domestically. Example, law and order and growing population strengthening the institutional agreements through sustainable measures. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Gavin. That's all. Okay, good. We go back to Group 6. Thank you, Gavin, and Group 7, Group 6. Ms. Bengi and Mr. Lai, have you resolved the issue? Is Ken presenting on behalf of the group?
Yes, Mr. I can present.
Okay, that's good. Go ahead.
So, about foreign policy as an extension of domestic policy. To answer the main inquiry question, how does one domestic policy challenge shape PNG's foreign policy under the Foreign Policy White Paper 2025? So,
Ken, sorry, are you talking about I think that's the activity for Friday, as mentioned already.
okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
We're on the levels of analysis, the document that you submitted.
All right, hold on. Sorry, I'll quickly, yeah.
Yeah, the 4 levels of analysis and
Yep.
Foreign Policy White Paper. Thank you.
Sorry, I'll quickly.
No worries, we're waiting. You've already answered all I think, all 8 questions, and what document I've circulated the document to everyone, so everyone has a copy of the Word version.
All right. So,
good.
sorry, am I coming through?
Yes, loud and clear. Go ahead.
All right. So, onto the levels of analysis. For the strategic level, the guiding question was, what national interest and long-term goals does the white paper promote? So our group response is that the white paper basically promotes security and economic prosperity through global adaptation. And on the contextual level, what domestic, regional, and global factors shaped the white paper. Basically, it sort of shapes both domestic, regional, and international in a way. So for domestic, it's law and order, like corruption, natural disasters, and weak governance. And for regional, would say it's for it shapes factors such as weak border security, climate change, geopolitical interests, and so forth. And for international, it shapes strategic competition, particularly with the Asia and the Pacific, and also, sort of the diversification of economy. That's on the contextual level. Onto the organizational level, the the guiding question asks which institutions and actors were involved or are responsible for that. So our response as a group would be number one, the Department of Foreign Affairs would be responsible for the would be responsible. And then we have National Executive Council or NEC, and we have diplomats and then the Department of Planning and Monitoring also plays an important role. And then we have the Department of Defense, Fisheries, Immigration and Development. And we have the Secretary for Foreign Affairs as well. Onto the operational level, what implementation steps or challenges or gaps that potentially could be identified would be a few of the many steps would be, first of all, to find, of course, a little bit of research and to find out finding, and then a little bit of understaffing, and then through poor agency coordination, and also lack of human resource like capacity building for diplomats would also consider as an implementation step as well. And on to our primary level, which level best explains the white paper overall, and why we would say the strategic level. Why? Because the white paper is primarily a long-term statement of PNG's national interests and international vision. The contextual, organizational, and operational level all support this strategic framework. So a strength would be, or some strength would be, let's say, clear national vision, strong emphasis on sovereignty, active and selective engagement, commitment to climate change, and a collective effort of key stakeholders. Now, a weakness would be implementation challenges and lack of national consultation, or say basically about advocacy and awareness on the issue. Yeah, so our overall review as a group, to answer the question, what does the white paper reveal about PNG's foreign policy making process? Would say basically it's about national interest, domestic development priorities, and regional and international partnerships, especially the big one that we all know of, friends to all and enemies to none, in order to maintain that. And also lack of domestic advocacy. So I guess that's pretty much it. I'm sorry, it's a bit not too much. It's like more or less like a rough presentation because we had a situation over here. So thank you so much everyone for your attention.
Yeah, thank you very much, Group 6, and thank you, Ken. It's okay. We have the MS Word document, so it captures the details of what you shared with us briefly. So I encourage all the attendees to go back and then can open the document and just read through and look at the details of the presentation done by Ken and Group 6. All right, thank you. So that brings us to the end of the presentation part of the program this afternoon. And the next part of the program is Q&A. So I'll open generally for questions from you group members, those who have not presented and who have something to say or add on to what your presenters have presented. The floor is open now for those of you from the 7 different groups who want to add on to what your presenters, Theophilus, Fiona, Abigail, Elizabeth, Della, Ken and Gavin have shared with us. So if you have anything to add on, I open the floor for questions, not questions, sorry, comments from you first of all. So if you have questions, just note it down and then we can come to the question part of the program later. But I generally open the floor for comments from group members. Want to add on to what the presenters have shared with us this afternoon, or presentations by other presenters from other groups. So feel free to unmute and share your comment or your additional information that you want to add on to your group presentation. In terms of commenting, just a reminder that Alphonse, Ken, and Fidelis, you've reached your maximum already. So for block 1. So the others, if you have comments, the floor is open.
Mr. I have a comment to make.
Abigail, please go ahead.
Regarding Gavin and Dan's presentation, so they chose the contextual level. So I also would agree with the.
Abigail, wait, sorry. You have made 6 comments already, so you've reached your maximum. Sorry for that. According to my tally. So maybe you could convert that comment of yours into a question and you ask later on.
Okay, Mr. Yeah, I think I'll do that.
Yeah, thank you. That'll be good. Yeah, because you have 6 comments already. So in terms of comments, how in regards to comments, Abigail 6 comments already, Marshall 6 already, Anton, Ken, Fidelis, and Gavin, we've already reached your maximum 6 comments. So the others, floor is open for questions. Comments. So it's 3:35 now. I'll give you the next 25 minutes, and 4 o'clock we'll open the floor for the next 30 minutes. We'll go for general comments and questions. So any group members who have comments?
I have a question here.
Chilwa, let me check. Yeah, okay, Chilwa, you are good to go. You can go ahead.
My question is directed to group 2 from the presentation.
Chino, we're doing comments now from group members.
Oh, comments.
Yeah, if you have something to add on to your presenter, you can add. Make a comment. So after, sorry, at 4 o'clock, we'll open for general Q&A.
All right.
Now, for this part, all presenters present finish. Now, you said your group member, you got extra comment or extra information to add on, please feel free to do that. So that's for this next 25 minutes. All right, comments. Sorry, Chino, I could go ahead if you have a comment to add on to your presenter. Group 3, your presenter was Abigail. If you have any comments to add on to what Abigail have shared with us or extra bits of information that she might have missed out from your presentation or something you think is important that she did not mention and you want to mention, that's fine. You can go ahead. Theophilus, please unmute and go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Sore. I have a comment while listening to all the presentation, even myself, to most of us presented and choose the strategic level, and I think one group they choose the contextual level, while the other two levels I didn't yet like mention in the group. Maybe I don't know if some other group mentioned, but from what I heard, I think these are the two that I mostly heard, and I feel that maybe in our in our foreign policy too, it's something that we can take note of and look at, especially the other two levels that most of our groups didn't mention, and see if the foreign policy, we can use these three level to look at, not two but three, but two that we didn't mention. We can look at the foreign policy using these two as a lens to see. Thank you. Yeah, that's just a little comment. I want to comment on this other two level of analysis that were not mostly mentioned in our group presentation this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, Theophilus. Yeah, group 7, I think, was the only, from what I had, they mentioned, or the primary level that they identified was contextual. Apart from them, all of you identified strategic level. Yeah, so that's interesting.
Yeah, so that maybe the next policy review that but our foreign bureaucrats, that they will look at the foreign policy later on, and in terms of reviewing, maybe it's something that they can take note of, especially these two, and see how they can be the next policy review into these two, so that it is operationalized, and then another one is organizational level, if they can fit these two in.
Yeah, thank you, Theophilus. Yeah, so the 4 levels are, I mean, if you look at the reading by Gyngell and Wesley, they used it to analyze Australian foreign policy, but we can use it to also, like what you have done, we can use it to analyze PNG foreign policy making, and you can also use it to look at a particular foreign policy issue, like the PNG Taiwan case. We can try to look at it from the strategic, from the contextual, from the operational level, and what's the one in between?
Organizational level.
Yeah, organizational, the operational, organizational, contextual, and strategic level. So for the Taiwan PNG issue, the outest issue that is now circulating on the media, you can use those 4 levels as well to look at the issue and then try to understand the issue. Is it due to national interest? And at the operational level, then how will that affect the operation of the bureaucracy and what Taiwan is doing already, the projects that they've, the maybe rice project or taro project or whatever project that they've already implemented and are running in the country, how will that affect the project at the organizational level and contextual level? So it's a useful framework that was used to analyze foreign policy, that was created by Gyngell and Michael Wesley. So we can also use that, like what I've shown Dr. Mitna used it in his PhD thesis to analyze PNG foreign policy. Okay, I should not be talking a lot, so I'll stop here. Comments from you, people? So thank you, Theophilus, for that. Anybody else want to add on something? We have 17 minutes remaining before I just open for general Q&A.
Say I have a comment here.
Chinua, go ahead.
From the presentations, I see that most of the group mentioned all of a government approach, which basically the consultants were government and executives and government departments and all that. So I was thinking, why not we also, like from the white paper, we should also consider the all of a society approach, which may include the citizens or NGOs, businesses, and academic groups as well. Yeah, that is that.
Thank you, Chinua. Yeah, that's an interesting comment. I mean, that could be done if the lead agency, DFA, coordinates everyone and put in place the right messaging to get everyone involved in implementation of the foreign policy. So we can involve not only all of government, all the government agencies, departments, and statutory authorities, but also civil society groups, farming groups, communities in isolated areas through the DDAs and through the wards and all that. So that's a big challenge. Or that's, if you want to see change, we might do what you have suggested. Take a whole of society approach to implement such a policy to see tangible changes in the different wards and districts around the country. Thank you, Chino. Anybody else with a comment?
Yeah, Mr. I have a comment to add on to Gino's comment, but at the national,
But
government.
Yeah, Theo, sorry, you have reached your maximum, so.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah, you can save your comment for the second block. So whatever comments and questions that you have, that's for Theophilus and for Anton and Ken and Fidelis. Also, in regards to comments, Abigail, you've reached your maximum. Marshall, Chinua, as well as Gavin. If you have further comments, you can reserve your comments for the next block number 2, and then you can share with us. If there are no more comments from the group, then might as well open the general Q&A session. So questions, comments for the group? Yes, Gavin.
Yeah, Greg. No, Mr. Greg. I have some technical issues with my laptop, so I'm just trying to add on to something what Gavin has mentioned related to our presentation. Yes.
All right, that's good. Go ahead.
About the factors, regional and domestic factors that shape PNG's foreign policy, just to add on to what he has mentioned. One is the strategic competition in the region with the growing influence of global powers, particularly US, China, and the region. That's one thing that we see that has shaped our foreign policy. About the domestic factors is economic and commercial diplomacies. The need to align international engagement with domestic goals such as generating wealth, or expanding the Connect PNG infrastructure agenda, and also attracting the foreign investment in the country. Another one is the reaffirming of our universalism principle, which friends to all and enemies to none. Yes. Mr. That's all. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Lige. Okay, the floor is open for questions and comments. Now, those of you who have questions, please feel free to unmute and share with us your questions, but not directed to me, but to the group representatives of the 7 different groups. Questions for the group reps from the 7 groups. Chino, you can go ahead with your question. Chino or Abigail. I think Abigail was trying to ask a question.
I'm sorry, sir, I restructured my question into comment and then
Oh, okay.
asked. I already asked.
Oh, you already made your comment
Yeah.
already. Okay, that's good. Thank you. Anyone with a question or comment for the group presenters? It's just a general comment from you. Why did majority of you selected the strategic level? And apart from all 6 of you, group 7 selected the contextual level. Just to start the conversation.
I think first reason is the anticipation of what to achieve in the coming years. And then, yeah, I think that's from my perspective of why we as a group choose this strategic. And then apart from achieving what is to come, it's also like expanding out of, region, like the whole foreign policy term is friends to all, enemies to none. So it's strategic to look at this. How can we be friends to all, enemies to none at a broader perspective, not within the region alone, but the extension to look out.
Okay, thank you, Theophilus. Ken, since no one has, we don't have anyone commenting next, maybe you would like to share something, as you mentioned. You have something to add on?
Right. Just to add something I forgot to mention during our presentation. Now, I came across an interesting point while reviewing the PNG Foreign Policy White Paper 2023. One thing that really stood out to me is the fact that PNG is basically trying to shift from being more reactive in foreign policy to becoming more proactive and strategic. So, like, instead of just responding to international events, the white paper talks about PNG taking a more active role in advancing its own national interests and setting its own direction. So I think that, yeah, it really supports why our group chose the strategic level as the main level of analysis. Yeah, because at the end of the day, everything in the white paper comes back to protecting PNG's national interest, strengthening our security and growing the economy and basically building stronger regional and international partnerships while maintaining our sovereignty. So yeah, that's all, Musa. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ken. Anybody else with a comment or question? Yeah, it's a bit too ambitious from my own point of view. Like from our history so far, we've never really funded a program that is attached to our foreign policy. But if you look at Australia, Australia has like the Australian Aid Program, Education, Maritime Security Program, and Pacific Research Program. They have like an array of programs where they fund from the taxpayers' money, from facilitated through DFA. So for us, we've never really done anything of that magnitude or fund a program like fund a PNG cultural program in Australia, music festival or music program, something that is part of our culture, but things that are where we have comparative advantage or we have resources. So now we try to do that, and it will be a big challenge for the government to allocate money for that, and then the department has to make sure that they budget properly. They have money for the travel and check funding the overseas embassies and all that. But apart from doing that, they have cultural programs in place. We have a scholarship program. I think we're already giving money to Solomon Island students to come and study at PNG and Unitech. And then apart from the cultural tourism programs, other programs that we run in other foreign countries as part of our public diplomacy to improve our international image to the international audience and to promote cooperation and partnership. So we've never run a program like that ever since we started, or we became a independent nation. So it's going to be, like I said, I think it's ambitious. They have to really manage whatever money is given to the department so they can roll out such projects in other countries. But if you compare that with Australia and the US and New Zealand, they have their own diplomatic programs that they run that comes under different sectors, including China as well. So, yeah, I'm saying it's ambitious because of the way our country is governed. And then already we've seen a lot of things happen. I don't know whether or not you've seen on social media or from the PM's office or from the newspaper, the reports, annual reports. The Department of Foreign Affairs has not submitted the 2024 and 2025 annual report. So if you compare with other government agencies, others have done well. So we don't know how much they've spent and the tax money that they get, how they've used that money in 2024, 2025, and I think it goes back to 23 and 2000. So yeah, it's a big challenge. Yes, sorry, Ken, just to add on to that.
Mr. Now I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So my question is towards group 7. Based on your selecting contextual level, would you guys considering the friends to all, enemies to none, or was it based on like active and selective engagement as well? Because I mean for my I believe that these are two different things, but they also have the same approach. Sorry, same objective.
Thank you, Abigail. Group 7. David, whoever is online can respond. So we have Gregory as well. And
Abigail, can you ask the question again, please?
So my question is based on choosing this contextual level. Was it based, I mean, the different parts of the white paper for white paper policy? So was it based on the friends to all, enemies to none, or the active and selective engagement?
You referring to the white paper, the level of contextual analysis and contextual level, why did we select it? Okay, by looking at it there, under the contextual level there, why we chose that is that we saw that the foreign policy, some of the factors that shaped it was the need for PNG to respond to global changes and its relationship with major powers, and also PNG's position in the Pacific and also other countries, I mean, its relationship with that. So I think that's all, yeah, we got. Does that answer your question? Or?
Yes. Sorry. Okay, so what I understood from what Mr. Akos said is our friends to all, enemies to none was when Papua New Guinea was trying to engage with different countries much as possible to be on the map. And after that, the selective and active engagement was more to do with, like what we said, on contextual level. It's like after finding out who they want to be friends with and who they rather not collaborate with. So that's how I understood it, and I understood that it was reasonable that contextual level is more relevant because it's also highlights Papua New Guinea's to interact with at the international level, and also look at like you mentioned, non-traditional threats or something too, that the contextual level highlight, prioritize. Yeah. But yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. I have a comment.
Yes, Fiona, go ahead.
Okay, I just not a comment, but I think I agree with the group 7. They said they use contextual level of analysis. So yes, I would agree that the contextual level of analysis is essential because foreign policy decisions cannot be fully understood without considering the environment in which they are made. So a country's history or political system or economic conditions, security concerns, culture, all these, they all shape its priorities and influence how it responds to international issues. So this means that the same foreign policy decision may have different motivations depending on the country's unique context. For example, PNG's strong focus on economic diplomacy in the Foreign Policy White Paper 2025 is influenced by its domestic challenges, such as limited economic diversification, high youth unemployment, and dependence on the extractive sectors, all these. So these internal conditions, they explain why PNG prioritizes attracting foreign investment, expanding trade, and strengthening international partnership with countries like Australia, Japan, and China, and all those our partners. So without understanding PNG's domestic context, it would be difficult to explain why economic diplomacy has become a major foreign policy priority. Similarly, let's look at small island developing states like Pacific Island states. They strongly advocate for climate action in international forums because they are among the countries most vulnerable to rising sea levels and extreme weather events. So their foreign policy reflects the environmental reality, demonstrating how context shapes national interests and international behavior. Therefore, yes, I think the contextual level of analysis provides a complete and realistic understanding of foreign policy by showing that state decisions are influenced not only by international events, but also by the unique domestic and historical circumstances of its country. Yes, just to thank you.
Yeah, that's a good argument. I would agree with that. The contextual level is like the main driver behind us coming up with a foreign policy white paper. And we saw all these security needs and economic needs, and That's why we've come up with that foreign policy to help us come up with a strategic or logical way to deal with all these countries that are within the Pacific and outside of the Pacific to help us address our national interest. Yeah, so that is one way of looking at it. Thank you for the addition, Fiona.
Mr. Just to add on to what they have mentioned there, yeah, because we thought that as the country respond to the changes in the 21st century, like what Mr. Rimbing Pato has mentioned in one of his foreign policy statement during the O'Neill government, the growing Papua New Guinea's connection in a globalizing world. So we think that as the country transition from the traditional to a more modern water, the foreign policy should be adjusted and changed. Like with the universalism and the 1981 engage on the previous foreign policy, where we, according to Mr. Ako has mentioned that as the country gained independence, it went on to sign a lot of bilateral or multilateral agreements with other organizations and countries. But as it grows now, we know whom our friends are and all this and has. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Yeah, the point on universalism also mentioned by Abigail, it was our first foreign policy. But one thing that all of you need to note now is that if you look at the 10 principles in the foreign policy white paper, it is one of the 10 principles. So now it's more or less it's identified as a principle, a key principle of PNG's foreign policy or international relations. Yeah, so apart from the one that we've looked at, domestic policy influencing foreign policy, that's the first one. And then if you look at the other 9 principles, you see that friends to all, enemies to none is also included in there. So it was our first foreign policy after independence due to the context, but now it's more or less identified as a principle, key principle that we always need to think about or factor into our foreign relations. Yeah, so just make sure you take note of the distinction. First foreign policy, the initial foreign policy that we adopted when we got independence in 1975, but now today it's considered as a principle of our foreign relations, one of the key principles, so 10 from the list that was given in the foreign policy white paper.
Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry, I just have a comment to make regarding the distinction between these two levels of analysis, in which, like most of us in our groups, we decide on the strategic level of analysis, and the other 2 groups, I guess, they put contextual level of analysis as the activities that they do. So basically, upon reading the book written by Gyngell and Wesley, I've seen that like the distinction between, or the difference between the strategic level of analysis and the contextual level of analysis is the strategic level of analysis is more of a long-term goal or plan set, and it's a more proactive approach. And for the contextual level of analysis is a reactive approach or short-term approach to address matters that like are currently happening one by one. So that's basically the distinction between them. But then seeing our PNG foreign policy white paper, I've seen that it is more of a long-term plan or guideline set, and it's more of a proactive approach. So that's why most of us, the other groups, we've selected strategic level of analysis in terms of the PNG foreign policy white paper. Yeah, thank you. That's what I just want to add.
All right, thank you, Marshall. I've not counted it because you've reached already a maximum number of comments, but thank you for adding to the discussion. We hope all of you take note of that. But yeah, we need to continue to read about the 6 levels and 6 levels of analysis and try to apply them when looking at foreign policy. Ms. Bengi, please go ahead.
Thank you. So just out of curiosity, this is not directed to any group, but I have a general question that I'm still trying to understand. So in the PNG Foreign Policy White Paper, the strategic, the organizational, contextual, operational, and primary levels of analysis are all presented. However, I'm still unsure about how these levels interact in practice when foreign policy decisions are actually made. Could anyone or Mr. please explain how these levels connect with one another, or perhaps provide a practical example from the white paper? Thank you. I really appreciate this.
A good question. Anybody want to share with us there? I'm not getting marked for my comments, so I'm giving priority to people. There's no right or wrong answer. It's social science and it depends on interpretation. And this here is our training ground. Huh? We say things, we share our point of view, and then we bounce our ideas with each other, so it helps us to improve our understanding. But I'll leave it on the floor from your understanding. What do you think about Ms. Bengi's question? If you have an example based on your reading, please do share with us.
Is it okay if I at least LT out? We're in the same group, but since no one is answering your question.
Yeah. Ken and Theophilus, apart from the two of you, those of you who still need to increase your number of comments, it's open to all of you. So Ken, we can have Ken and then Theophilus. Go ahead, Ken.
All right. So for Tia's question, it's just my understanding. I believe I understand it. Like Miss said, it may be wrong or right, but doesn't matter. So the way I understand it is that each level probably has a different role, but they're all connected in some ways. So the strategic level is like from my understanding is the overall goal of what PNG wants to achieve. Whereas the contextual level basically looks at the factors influencing that goal. And the organizational level is about the government agencies that develop the policy, I'd say. And then if we're looking at the operational level, that is where the policy is actually implemented. So all in all, finally, I could say and also not forgetting the primary level, it's where I believe leaders, I would say, make decisions, like final decisions. Yeah, but all in all, they sort of work together. But I could say it's like an hierarchy where it starts with the strategic level and then goes down to the primary level, something like that. But yeah, an example would be if PNG wants to sign a trade agreement with, say, China, then the goal is to set at the strategic level, and then the context is considered, and then government departments prepare the policy, and then diplomats probably negotiate it, and then I guess for our case, Prime Minister James Marape makes a final decision. But I mean, that's all from my understanding. Just to support my teammate. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Ken. Theophilus, what is your understanding?
Thank you. I think a part or portion of the answer Ken already gave. So looking back to why we have foreign policy, some of our friends already mentioned foreign policy is the reflection of what we as a nation want to achieve. That's our national interest, and that's reflects us, and that's fall under contextual. So contextual, for instance, we have the friends to all, enemies to none is the one, I'll say, it's one name that reflects that we are developing nation. So that friends to all, enemies to none is a reflection of us. So we need to make more friends because we are still developing. So we need, partners. And then the organizational level. So at the organizational level, how can we achieve that national interest that we have? So now let's come back to the department, like Foreign Affairs, Prime Minister's Department, and others who are, in a state, so who are in the level where, they can organize and make this plan come to a reality. And that's where we can achieve it as a nation. And then operationalize. Who are the, what are the agencies that they're going to operationalize at an international level, even though at the domestic level too, we have other plans to that, sub-geo that comes under the foreign, like the medium term and the medium term, and then the Vision 2050 that is in the domestic level. Okay, and then let's go to another level, which is strategic. So strategic, now let's look abroad now, international, how can we plan to achieve this national interest in the coming years, like either 10 years or let me say 5 or 10 years after all. So that's just a summary. As I said, it already has already answered some of the points, or has already mentioned some of the points in relation to the question.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Francis, go ahead.
I just want to share my perspective in regards to Pia's question. So, in regards to the question, I think the Papua New Guinea foreign policy white paper is best understood when all these 4 levels are seen as connected. So by looking at the strategic level, it sets a long-term vision by defining PNG's national interest, sovereignty, and international direction. And under the contextual level, it provides the background showing how global changes, regional dynamics, and domestic pressures shape the need for the vision under the strategic level. So under the organizational level, it explains the institutions, the structures, and that will carry out the strategy, while the operational level focuses on the specific actions and policies that put the vision into practice. So I think together these levels and so the white paper is not just a statement of vision, but the complete framework. So the strategy gives direction. The context explains why we need to follow this direction. The organization shows who will act, and the operations shows how it will be done. That's all.
Yeah, thank you, Francis. Yeah, but based on what you have said, you can look at the diagram in Dr. Philip Mittner's thesis, Ms. Benji. It gives you a good, explanation of the strategic level. That's where we identify the interest, and then contextual, the context that we the circumstances internationally and domestically, they influence the type of decision that we make or type of foreign policy that we make. And then at the institutional or organizational level, foreign affairs, our institutional leaders and bureaucrats at that level, they look at the circumstances and then they make decisions based on what is happening. And then the operational level, the day-to-day implementation in the foreign policy. So if we look at that and then we try to understand, now we have the foreign policy white paper. So that's at the strategic and contextual level. Another challenge now is operational, organizational level and operational level. And I was saying earlier that I thought it was a bit too ambitious as having all this, trying to say people do this and that. And then the challenge now is to go and like what Mr. Ak was saying, for all the pillars, you come up with a strategy, what you will do for the pillars. And then that will involve like those at the organizational level, inter-government coordination, and then operational level too, how you get all these agencies to work together to implement different programs that we will come up with that will be connected to the different pillars. So that will be a big challenge. So going back to what you said, how in reality, how do we apply this level of analysis to try to understand what's happening now currently? So that's from my understanding, you look at the strategic level, now we have our principles, we have our national interest, things that we want to do. We have the actual plan itself. And then the context, many of you talked about power competition between the two powers at the moment, China, Russia, China, and the United States of America. And then we have other circumstances that are, other things that are happening within the region as well. So come down to regional, many of you talked about the need for securing our borders. So now the big challenge is the organizational level and the operational level. So how we will come up with programs and then use our resources, use whatever funding that DFA gets to organize these programs and then get all the other agencies involved in helping the Department of Foreign Affairs to implement the policy. That will be the big challenge that we will have going forward, 2026 and onwards. And like I mentioned earlier, like from studying our foreign policy history, we've never, like comparing it with other, it's wrong to do that, but then it will help us to understand what we're doing. But comparing it with Australia and New Zealand, they have different programs that they fund the Foreign Affairs Ministry or the Department of Foreign Affairs, they fund. But for us, we've never successfully implemented a diplomatic program. I think the only one that stood out if you look at our foreign policy history, is the scholarship program that we give to Vanuatu and Solomon Island students before, and then it died out, and then we're trying to revive that again. Yeah, so that's the only program that we have, educational diplomacy program that we have, where we're getting Solomon Island students to come and study here. And many of the leaders now in Solomon Islands are PNG, people who have graduated from PNG universities. So that's the only success story of a foreign policy program that we have, that's in line with our foreign policy friends to learn, enemies to learn. But apart from that, the others are more or less us going and attending bilateral relation or bilateral, multilateral meetings and then reacting to that. Yeah, so the only strategic program that we have is that one between us and Solomon Islands or Melanesian countries. Yeah, so that's my take on that. And can continue to read to check whether or not we have experience offering other diplomatic programs that are in line with our foreign policy. Yeah, but big challenge is the last one was in 1982, and now the second one was formulated in 2025. So we had a big gap in the middle where we had no strategic policy document to guide us, and it was all ad hoc. Nubla foreign minister coming, Nubla prime minister coming, they come up with their own foreign policy slang or saying or approach, and the bureaucrats, they just followed what they were doing. Yeah, so there was nothing at the strategic level, and then looking at the context and organizational and operational level, it was a bit mixed up compared to Australia, where they used that 4 levels of analysis. But now we're starting to see some changes. So we have the foreign policy white paper document, and then we look at the circumstances, the context, and then now, like I said, the challenge is the organizational and operational level. Yeah, so I hope it makes sense, Nubla. Is what I'm saying making sense, or we confuse you, Glogda? Questions, comments before I let you people go? We have 5 minutes remaining.
I have a general questions which we can all discuss. Now, firstly, from the strategic level of analysis, the white paper is seen as a proactive approach for strategic partnership. But we also have history of treaties such as Pukpuk Treaty 2025 and the United States Papua New Guinea Defense Cooperation Agreement 2023. Is it possible that these treaties do not contradict or compromise the foundational doctrine of friends to all, enemies to none, which the foreign policy white paper wished to reaffirm? Thank you.
Good question from Chinua. Chinua, so you are saying that these treaty documents that we have signed might affect, might challenge the principle of friends to all, enemies to none.
Yes.
So you're asking, is it a good thing or is it not good, or
Yeah,
confusing?
I'm asking for opinions.
Opinions. Okay. Plus opinions.
Oh, Mr. Pumi, personally, I think that this friends to all, enemies to none is already gone. It's like an old policy. So now we are on the new policy. So we are looking forward. We are looking forward to a new relationship and new partners to come. I mean, that's from my opinion, but I don't know if the signing of the Pukpuk Treaty compromise these friends to all or enemies to none.
Yeah, that's where the confusion is. They put it in the 10 principles again. So if you look at the 10 principle page, page 24, they've included that again. And then we're trying to say, let's be selective, and it's confusing. That's why, like in my last blog article, I said maybe PNG is taking the approach where we separate things, like we look to China for economic relationship, investments, and all that. But then we look to US and Australia for security. So even Brooklyn, the scale was a walk mark, you one country. Because if you want to say friends to all and enemies to none, it's confusing again. Because now look at the Taiwan case. So now even a friend of them, Taiwan, we've broken that relationship by closing that economic office in Port Moresby down through a NEC decision. And this has pissed off Taiwan and has pissed off America as well. And Taiwan has decided they've made a decision not to buy they buy 5.6% of our LNG or something. So they've decided not to, they're going to confirm the decision in the coming days to cease purchasing LNG from us. So that will be, revenue. That will affect our revenue, our money coming in from. So yeah, it's confusing when we try to pick and choose and all that. And then in the foreign policy white paper, we say that we want to be friends to all and enemies to none, and we made it become, like I said, it was our first foreign policy, but it's a foreign policy principle. If you read page 24, yeah. So that's where consultation is important. So if they come and consult us, we'll tell them, let's forget about friends to all, enemies to none, that principle and universalism principle, and let's focus on active and selective engagement only. So I mean, but second all advice like you want, but they didn't come around and collect our views. So yeah, and all of us, we have different opinions and different interpretations of what is happening. So yeah, it's good. It's good that all of you are now saying all these things, and you're seeing the problem now we've created a problem. We're saying we are friends to all, enemies to none. It's a principle in our foreign policy, but then Taiwan is not our friend. So then how will we deal with Taiwan when it comes to APEC again? That's where Mr. Ako is coming in. Because Taiwan is an economy and has membership in the APEC group, multilateral group. So let's start now at the moment.
Mr. I have
Yeah,
a,
Fidelis, go ahead.
I have a comment in this. From my perspective, those treaty signs between those country, Australia and America, actually I think they are fighting a modern warfare indirectly. So it's like they are afraid of China gaining in dominance in the region. That's why they signed those treaties to gain their trust in between them. However, our policy, as mentioned by Mr. Ako, it's our game plan. It's still our game plan that we used to for international arena to safeguard ourselves. So we have nothing to lose here, if I may say it. Or so the thing is that as all Bamito, they are afraid of themselves gaining dominancy in the region. So our policy still remain the same. However, it's how they approach each other, those giant economies. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Fidelis. Thank you. Yeah, so if you look at it, we come back to the principle of friends to all, enemies to none. If we had thought about that, we would not have gone ahead and signed the Puk Treaty. Because we talk time is treaty now, now we are allies with Australia now. And the treaty says that if another country attacks us, then Australia will help us. If Australia is attacked, then PNG will help. So when it comes to China now, if China does attack Australia or something like that in the future, then yeah, that'll be really complicated because already economically, our economies, China is deeply embedded. Many of our investments now comes from China, especially Chinese businesses of Chinese origin. So yeah, it's going to be really messy when we come to that stage, if it does happen in the future. But yeah, otherwise, if we said that was our principle, we would not have signed the Papua Treaty. There's a lot of things that this current government, in terms of foreign policy, there needs to be a clear. So if they had done that, and then if they seek consultation, we would have told them, don't include that as a principle, because we're contradicting Puk Treaty in a shipwright agreement with the US and the pending shipwright agreement with France, and because then it will create a messy situation. So yeah, but anyway, that's just our point of view. But it's a good discussion. I leave it to people to continue the discussion, and we'll continue on Friday. We'll continue on Friday. Thank you, everyone. We'll stop here. Thank you for your participation. It's 4:33, so we'll stop here. And on Friday, like I said, we'll do the database, foreign policy and domestic policy connection. We'll do that activity on Friday. So I'll start off with the topic for the Friday Q&A, which is friends to all, enemies to none. So it's a good discussion now. So we'll continue the discussion on Friday, and then we'll go into our activity. Mr. Ako will be busy meeting with the New Zealand government, so we'll do the activity or do the Friday class without him. So that's all. Take you through all the presenters, Theo and Fiona, Abigail, Elizabeth, Della, Teresa, Tia, Gavin. Thank you for your contribution and for all of you ask questions and made comments. Thank you. I've noted them down. And then Friday will be the last session for block 2 and then block 1, and then I'll add the marks into final marks into your grade book. Yeah. All right. That's all. Thank you. You all have a pleasant afternoon.